Hello everybody, my name is Spoons Rattling, and welcome to another Warhammer video. So, the Balanced Data Slate came out today, and while the changes to the game itself are not particularly crazy or anything like that, I just wanted to cover this new thing they're doing. If you remember, back in December, they made a bunch of new detachments for Grotmess, right? That was the big event for December. Everyone got new detachments. But they revealed, if we go to Warhammer Community, that they're just going to keep doing that for the rest of the year. Every quarter, we're going to get 3 new detachments, and today, the first quarter of the year, of course, Tau, Orks, and Custodes got theirs. Now, obviously, I'm a big Orks fan, and while I don't enjoy fighting Tau, I still like them as an army. And, Custodes are fine. So I just thought we'd quickly cover them. But yeah, this is really, really cool. This is just more evidence of, how great of a time it is to be a Warhammer fan, right? But just all the armies are getting consistently new rules every 3 months, which is great. There used to be a time where I think Drukhari went four editions without a new codex. Crazy to think. So let's look at this. And let me zoom in a little bit more. We just click in like this and then go full screen. We can't open this file. There we go. So, this is a great detachment that the Orks were sorely missing from their Codex launch and from Grotmess. This is a shooting detachment, more DACA. So the detachment rule is fittingly DACA, DACA, DACA. I'm sure Ork players have fond memories of that old rule. It was a fun one. And this really lives on in that spirit, in the fact that it is very powerful, but also very impactful for your Orks themselves. Okay, you know what? I guess we cannot go full screen with this, so we'll do this. There we go. Anyways, so during your shooting phase, ranged weapons equipped by Orks Infantry and Orks Walkers models have Sustained Hits 2, which is my personal favorite ability in the game for a weapon to have. This is a humongous damage boost. Remember, if you're hitting on 5s, that means 50% of your attacks just triple into 3 attacks. This is really powerful. And since this is on Orks, Infantry, and Walkers, notice that it does not exclude Titanic, so Gorkonauts, Morkonauts, and Stampas get this rule as well. And then while the WA is active for your army, ranged weapons equipped by Orks, Infantry, and Walkers have Assault, which is really nice because that means you can advance, shoot, and charge. And with how much more powerful your shooting is with Sustained Hits 2, that's obviously going to be a lot of damage. Your WA is going to go from just, a lot of damage to an apocalyptic level of damage, especially for units that can pull double duty. Again, the Knots come to mind, or Killicans come to mind as well. They can easily blow up a main battle tank and then charge into something else and carve it to pieces with their melee. So this is a really strong detachment rule, in my opinion. In terms of enhancements, first up we've got Dagobshot Thunderbuss. This is for an Orks model only. Ranged weapons equipped by the bearer have the Devastating Wounds and Hazardous ability. Now this is obviously a very powerful rule, though who you would put it on is a little dubious, in my opinion. You could put this on something with a lot of guns, like a, what's the name? Def Killer War Trike, as they have, 3 ranged profiles, and all of them would get dev wounds, but also you'd risk blowing yourself up, which would suck. The mechs come to mind, of course. The shock attack gun really does come to mind, as it does not have dev wounds. So you can use that to just hit someone with a big, d6 plus 1 devastating wounds hit. But again, of course, you do risk blowing yourself up, but, that can still be useful to punch through the toughest things in the game. And then this is a really interesting one. This is the Dead Shiny Shootas. This is for an Orks model. Ranged weapons equipped by models in the bear's unit have the Rapid Fire 1 ability. So this is interesting because you can give this to a lot of units that you traditionally wouldn't have Rapid Fire on. For example, you could have this on a mech that's leading some Burna Boys, and then you'd have Rapid Fire Flamers, which is just kind of a funny visual, if nothing else. You could put it on Tank Bustas. That would be really good because they already hit super hard, so giving them Rapid Fire 1 is definitely nice. But aside from that, there's not too much that you would put this on. Ludas already have Rapid Fire. Ork Boys, you can give it to Ork Boys, because then your pistols, your Sluggas, would have Rapid Fire. which is interesting. You could also give this to a lot of strange other units. You could put this on a beast boss on Squigosaur, and then lead him with some Squighog boys, and since they would have... since they, of course, have their stickas, they wouldn't have the sustained hits too because they're not infantry, but they would have 2 attacks with their stickas, which would definitely be nice. But, you know, it's just an interesting one, if nothing else. I'm not sure about the points. We'll have to check the Munitorum Field Manual after this. So targeting Squigs is just for an Orc model only. Each time a model in the bear's unit makes a ranged attack, add 1 to the hit roll. Hugely powerful. Again, Tank Bustas, Ludas, things like that can all get this. Do keep in mind, Flash Gits cannot. Though they do benefit from sustained hits too, they can't get any of these enhancements. There's nothing that can lead them. Still really, really useful. Just because, again, Orcs hit on 5s, so hitting on 4s is a pretty big boost. 50% damage boost, effectively. And then you have Zog Off and Eat Daka, which is for an Orcs model, and you're eligible to shoot in a turn which it fell back. Useful for more aggressive shooting units. Again, like a Deathkiller War Trike would probably appreciate this. So you could have your big unit of war bikes charge in, chop something up, and then run away, shoot if the going gets tough. So overall, I'd say these enhancements are all right. None of them, except for Target and Squigs, are insanely powerful, but I don't think that's a bad thing, again, because this detachment rule is so good. And there definitely is value into Gobshot Thunderbusts, even if, of course, you do have to risk killing your own character to hit those big devastating wounds. Next up, we have the strats. We have 6, as per usual. Orcs is still Orcs as the first one, with 1 command point. This is in the fight phase. 1 Orc unit that has not been selected to fight this phase. Till the end of the phase, each time a model in your unit makes an attack that targets an enemy unit, reroll a wound roll of 1. If that enemy is within range of an objective marker, you can reroll the wound roll instead. Huge damage. Rerolling the wound roll is one of the most powerful things you can do. Also note that this is super general purpose. You could put this on a Stompa for 1 command point, and since it's already wounding the entire game on 2s, doesn't really matter. And this does keep them very competitive in the fighting phase, of course. Get Stuck In, lads, for 1 command point in your command phase. It's 1 Orc unit from your army. Till the start of the next command phase, the Wa is active for your unit, even if you have already called the Wa this battle. So this is, frankly, insane. This just allows you to have 1 Of course, this would be very pricey, but you could spend, 3 command points on 1 unit over the course of a game, and just have them permanently in the Wa, which means they're advancing and shooting, advancing and charging, +1 attack, +1 damage, +1 strength, all that jazz, which is just crazy. And you could basically have that up the entire game. Definitely one you'd want to use a lot is this Get Stuck In, lads. Then we have huge show-offs in your command phase for an Orc Walker unit, excluding Killicans, so again, Knots, Death Dreads, or Stompas. Until the start of your next command phase, improve your unit's move, leadership, and OC by 1. And each time a model in your unit makes an attack, add 1 to the hit roll. Also, super powerful. It's nice to unshackle the shooting walkers from a mech to keep them super competitive while shooting. And also the extra movement just keeps them nice and mobile, which is always good for units that can be a little bit slow at times. Definitely a very powerful one to use on occasion, especially in the early game where you need to just blow your enemy away in 1 gigantic round of shooting, which with the sustained hits 1 shouldn't be that hard. Next up, we have Long Uncontrolled Bursts, which is 1 command point in your shooting phase, 1 Orcs character unit, or 1 Orcs character model from your army. Then you select 1 enemy unit within 18 inches of your Orcs character model. To the end phase, weapons equipped by Orc models from your army have ignores cover while targeting that unit. This is really good for the Orcs because a lot of their weapons are rather medium AP rather than high AP. So 1 command point for army-wide ignores cover is really strong. You'd want to put this again on a Deathkiller War Trike or perhaps a War Boss jumping out of a truck, so they get up far into the midboard and then you can select any unit that needs to die, and then you just unload on it. Next you have Special Shells, which is for 1 Orcs unit that is not shot, so again, anything. Until the end phase, each time a model in your unit makes a ranged attack that targets the closest eligible target within 18 inches, improve the armor penetration of the armor pen characteristic of ranged weapons equipped by models in your unit by 1. This is also really, really strong. Put this on Killicans to get AP3 rocket launches. You get AP3 custom Mega Blasters on a on a Def Dread. You can get, even if you just need a little burst of AP from something like Mega Knobs, that could definitely have its uses. Yeah, this is a really powerful one. Extra AP is great. If you have 2 command points and you pair that with long uncontrolled bursts, you'll be eaten. You'll be laughing all the way to the bank. And then you have Kaldat Daka for 1 command point in your opponent's shooting phase, just after an enemy unit is shot. Basically, 1 Ork unit that had 1 or more of its models destroyed as a result of the attacking unit, and then you get to shoot, but you can only target them, and you can only do it if they are a eligible target, which is a solid strat, but do keep in mind, you would not have this as it's during your shooting phase, not during just the entire game. So, this is definitely useful in certain circumstances, but I'd say more so for units like Killicans that already hit on 4s, instead of something that hits on 5s. Granted, still powerful, regardless, shooting back is always good. So definitely one to keep in mind. Overall, I think this detachment is pretty good. This detachment rule is just insanely powerful. Even though you're missing out on things like wound rerolls from the Dread Mob detachment, I think your damage is going to about even out, just because you're going to have, 3 times as many attacks in a lot of circumstances. And with that much Daka, how could you not just blow things away? I mean, again, the custom Mega Blast Def Dread is just going to blow anything to smithereens in this detachment for sure. Overall, great detachment, something that was dreadfully missing for a long time for Orks. So I'm glad to see that this finally got a proper detachment. Now, let me quickly go to the Downloads tab, and we'll double-check the good old-fashioned Munitorm Field Manual. So we can go down to the Orks. Where's the Munitorm Field Manual? Where is it? Balance Data Slate. There it is. Munitorm Field Manual. Orks are on page 29. Boom, boom, boom. Codex Orks. Warhorde. More Daka. Oh, more Daka. It's right here. Targeting Squigs is only 15 points. That's a steal. What the heck? That is so good. Yeah, that's really good. Dead Shiny Shooters at 35 is probably a little bit pricey for what it brings. Gobshot Thunderbuss seems totally valid at 15 points. And Zogophony Daka is totally valid at 10, in my opinion. Let's move on to the good old golden boys of the Emperor himself. Well, I would say the Adeptus Custodes, but they seem to be not wanting to show up. Let me quickly grab that again. Custodes, Lioness of the Emperor. Here we go. Let me zoom in. Okay, so Detachment rule is against all odds. Each time an Adeptus Custodes unit from your army, excluding vehicles, makes an attack, if there are no other friendly units within 6 inches of that unit, add 1 to the hit roll and add 1 to the wound roll. Overall, an interesting detachment rule. It's nice and different, which I do like. The +1 to hit is mostly pointless unless you're fighting things like Sanguinary Guard. +1 to wound is very big, though, as Custodes can sometimes struggle with their medium strength weaponry. Enhancements, not much to say here. You're going to want to have your biggest units possible operating by themselves on far-flung parts of the map, which shouldn't be too tough for Custodes to do, but just keep that in mind. In terms of enhancements, we have Superior Creation. This is a Warlord trait back in 9th edition. Adeptus for Custodes infantry only. First time the bear is destroyed, okay, D6 on a 2+, set the bear back up on the battlefield with its full wounds remaining. This would be very good on something like a Terminator Shield Captain, just for how tough they can be. In general, this would be great on any of the Custodes characters because they'll fight very hard, so getting another round of combat out of them could be useful. Do keep in mind this is not at the end of the turn, it's the end of the phase, so if you get blown up in a shooting and there's still a melee phase to follow, they may not be completely safe. But if they kill you in melee, there's a good chance you stand back up and are, happy on your way to do one more round of action. Then you have Presidius. This is for just any Custodes model. The bear has Lone Operative and Stealth. That is very powerful, unsurprisingly. Having Lone Up on something like a bike captain would be handy, and stealth as well. These could be good on any of the characters, really. Something like a blade champion running around with lone operative could be decent. Just generally, it'd be useful for an army that I don't think has access to lone operatives, really. So definitely something to keep in mind. Next up, we have Fierce Conqueror, which is for a shield captain only. At the start of the fight phase until the end of the phase, add 2 to the attacks characteristic of melee weapons equipped by this bearer for every 5 models within 6 inches of the bearer. That's pretty fun. That's definitely fun, and could be really useful if you're fighting something like Orks, as we just covered. If you get into a big, 22 strong model of Orks, getting that extra... what's the word I'm looking for? Extra attacks would be very useful. This one will be matchup dependent, but it is a very fun enhancement, which I always do really like. And if you're really just in the thick of a horde army, like Guard, for example, you could be getting a lot of attacks out of this for certain. And then we have Admona Mortis. This is for, again, shield captain only. Improve the strength characteristics of melee weapons equipped by the bearer by 3, and improve the AP and damage characteristics of those weapons by 1. So this is pretty darn good, I'd say. This would really excel on something like a, Terminator Captain, maybe? Because of the extra strength that you need just to be a bit more effective, especially on something like a Castellan Axe, which have that extra strength. This would bring it up to strength 12, and would fix its low AP by bringing it to AP 2 and damage 4. This would make a Castellan Axe just a monstrously powerful weapon. You could also put this on some of the other shield captains, but I'd say the Castellan Axe is definitely where it's at its best. Though, again, something like a biker captain could definitely be useful with Lance, going up to, strength 10, I want to say. With Lance would be very good. And, of course, the extra AP and damage is much appreciated. I just think it goes the furthest on a captain with an axe, whether that be just a regular captain or a Terminator captain. Having strength 12, AP 2, damage 4 is just really good for carving up vehicles. Overall, I'd say this is a solid start to a detachment. The detachment rule is definitely fun. It will require you to go quite big on units, as big as you can with Custodes, even though they're rather limited in how big their units can be. Going for a few huge units and having them operate on their own as big Death Stars is definitely what you'd want to do, because this is just too powerful to pass up on. On to the stratagems. So Gilded Champion is 1 command point. This is in any phase, just after an Adeptus Custodes character model from your army has used its once per battle ability, basically. You get to use it again, but you cannot use this stratagem on the same character more than once. Yeah, I mean, this is pretty useful, especially for, what would it be? For a shield captain, you would get, I think it's an extra fighting, or both the fighting stances. And then on a Terminator captain, I had to look this up, but he could get 2 rounds of every attack being, 2 turns of every attack being damage 1, which would make him very hard to chew through, 100%. Definitely one that you would want to use at least once. Defiant to the Last is for a 1 command point in the fight phase, just after an enemy unit has selected targets, one of your units that was targeted, and then until the end phase, each time a model in your unit is destroyed. If that model is not fought this phase, roll 1d6, adding 2 to the results that model has a character keyword. On 4+, it gets to fight. This is really powerful because Custodes, again, they are very much an army that hits very, very hard. Most of their models hitting about as hard as a character from other factions, but of course not with like enhancements or anything. So getting them to fight before they die is very useful, even if it's only a coin flip, and especially for a character, if they're carrying some powerful enhancement, this would definitely be worth it. You do have to, of course, do this a little bit preemptively, but I don't think that's a bad thing. One thing I want to note is Peerless to the Peerless Warrior here. This is the heading for this is blue when it should be green. That's completely irrelevant. So in the fight phase, add Adeptus Custodes that has not been selected to fight. Until the end of the phase, melee weapons equipped by models in your unit have the Precision ability. This is very good if you just need to cut the head off of an army, whether that be Chaos Space Marines with Abaddon, or with any other sort of very important character that's hiding behind a very tough bodyguard. Next up, we have Unleash the Lions. This is a classic strat for the Custodes. In your command phase, you select one Alaris Custodian or Aquilin Custodian unit from your army. Interesting, Aquilins. I forgot. They're not a Legends unit. That unit is split into separate units, each containing one model. These new units each have a starting strength of 1. Hold the phone. This is kind of, at the very least, very silly, if not the most useful. But you could have, in theory, 3 units of 6 Terminators and have them just split into 18 different units. Right? Because it'd be 6 units, each of them... Well, no, because it's 6 units. Yeah, because there's 18 models. Sorry, I'm getting confused on my math. That's really funny. I can't even deny. This definitely is one that you'd have to know when to use, because, well, it may be just tempting to use it and just have all these units be able to split off in their own directions because it's cool. You'd have to be careful, because if you split this unit up and they all charge the same unit, or multiple charge the same unit, you would be susceptible to getting counter-offensived, which could be very devastating. Of course, that does mean things like weapons are much less effective against them, because if you send a full volley of plasma guns into just one unit, that's definitely not ideal. Definitely a fun one. It would be very silly. I guess, in theory, you could have 3 units of Alaris and 3 units of Aquilons, and I think it would take forever. It would take, the first 3 battle rounds to split them all into a bunch of different units, but that would just be funny, right? That'd be funny, and being funny is the best thing. For 1 command point, we have Maneuver and Fire. This is in your movement phase, just after an Adeptus Custodes unit has fallen back. Target that Adeptus Custodes unit. Till the end of the turn, your unit is eligible to shoot and declare a charge when it fell back. Very useful. Good if you've pretty much finished off a unit, but not quite. You can fall back, blast it with your Guardian Spears, and charge something else. Always very good. Then you have Swift as the Eagle. This is during your opponent's shooting phase, just after an enemy unit has shot. 1 Custodes unit, excluding vehicles, that was selected as a target of one of your... selected as a target of one or more of the attacking unit's attacks, you can make a normal move up to D6. Very useful for a unit that you're afraid may get completely blown away. They can run behind cover or out of line of sight. Very good for 1 command point. Overall, I'd say this detachment is pretty solid. Maybe not the absolute strongest, but definitely one that's very fun. It has a lot of unique rules, which I do really enjoy, and I think that is definitely worth mentioning, that this thing does really have just a lot of uniqueness in its rules and its enhancements and its stratagems, which is very fun. Next up, what do we have left? The Tau Empire, that's right. Tau Empire, everyone's favorite mechas. So this is the experimental prototype, Cadre. So the detachment rules superior craftsmanship, add 6 to the range characteristics of ranged weapons equipped by Tau Empire models from your army. This is really annoying, for a myriad reason, for your opponent that is. For your Meltas, that brings them up to 18-inch range. For your Breachers, that brings them up to 16, things like that. It is very useful. Just to engage from a bit further away, which Tau generally prefer to do. Me personally, I'm not sure if I would have made that detachment rule. It seems to encourage more just sitting back with a huge gun line, and this just makes that easier to do. However, I still think it's a very powerful detachment rule, especially for just making it easier to get into Melta range for your Sunforge suits. Next up, in terms of enhancements, we have the Supernova Launcher. This is for Empire model only. Select 1 airbursting fragmentation projector equipped by the bearer. Improve the strength characteristic of that weapon by 3, and then AP and damage by 1. So this would bring it up to, Strength 7, AP 1, damage 2. Very solid for blowing up things like Knobs or Space Marines. Of course, with that, it's just a nice boost. This one I think would have to be pretty cheap. We'll check the points for Custodes and these guys at the same time. Next, we have Thermoneutronic Projector. For Tau Empire model only, Tau Flamer equipped by the bearer, improve the strength characteristic of that one by 2, improve the AP and damage by 1. So this would bring it up to what? Strength 6 or Strength 7, and then AP 1, damage 2. Very good for blasting against Space Marines, things like that. Tau Flamers can become pretty heinous, so making one extra strong is always good. Granted, I say that, you would need Retaliation Cadre, so maybe this, maybe not the best enhancement here, but definitely still solid. If you just include a Token Flamer for Overwatch, this would make it a lot more effective. Then we have the Plasma Accelerator Rifle for, again, Empire model, 1 Plasma Rifle. Improve the strength characteristic of that weapon by 2, and improve the attack's AP and damage of that attack by 1 of that weapon by 1. That would bring it up to what? Strength 10. 2 attacks at strength 10. 2 attacks at strength 10. Why can't I think? 2 attacks at strength 10. AP 3 damage 3. I think that is what it is. Hold on, let me just bring up a commander in a Cold Star battle suit. I have it up on my other screen. Plasma rifle. Yes, you get 2 attacks at strength 10, AP 4, damage 4. Really powerful for just blasting away things like Terminators, or just in general, just very effective against all targets. And then we have Fusion Blades. This is just for, again, Empire model, Fusion Blaster. Improve the attacks of that characteristic by 1, improve the strength characteristic of that weapon by 3, and the weapon has the Melt of 4 ability. So this would bring you up to 2 attacks at strength 12 with Melt of 4. Very, very powerful. Fusion Blasters are already very good, especially in a Sunforged unit. So this just makes it more effective, especially with the army rule. It just makes your Fusion Blasters a lot scarier. Yeah, I'd say that out of all of these, Supernova, they're all good, though I'd say Fusion Blade, Plasma Accelerator, and Supernova Launcher are the best. Next, in terms of strats, we have Automated Repair Nodes. This is for 1 Tau Empire Battlesuit unit. Select 1 Battlesuit model on the unit, up to D3+1. Lost wounds are returned to it. Very, very solid, especially for your bigger ones, like Broadsides or Riptides. Mainly because I'm pretty sure Tau lack a unit like a Tech Marine that could heal them. So having some way to heal the units that, in general, aren't the toughest would be very useful. Because while they have solid saves, they can often be very susceptible to just being blown away. Next, we have Reactive Impact Dampeners for 1 command phase in your opponent's shooting or fight phase. Just after selected targets, 1 battlesuit unit from your army, such as target of 1 or more of those attacking units' attacks, till the end of the phase each time an attack targets your unit. If the strength of that is greater than your toughness, subtract 1 from the wound roll. This is going to be useful because most battlesuits have sort of middling toughness. So making things like las cannons or melta or plasma guns less effective against them would be very useful. Definitely useful in melee, where Tau are just they're known for being fish. So having them at least hang on so they could fall back and shoot could definitely be useful. Next, we have 1 command point for experimental weaponry. This is in your shooting phase, 1 Empire unit that has not been selected to shoot. Till the end of the phase, each time you roll 1 or more dice to determine the number of attacks, you can reroll the result. This is really good for your Star Knife, I believe it is, the ones with the Tau Flamers, or even something that's like just equipped with a lot of missile launchers, like the broadside with the missile pods. Next, we have 1 command point for experimental ammunition. So in your shooting phase, you select 1 Tau Empire unit that is not shot this turn, and then select 1 of the following to apply until the end of the phase. Improve the strength characteristics of your model's weapons by 1. Improve the strength and AP characteristics of ranged weapons equipped by 1, and those weapons have the hazardous ability. Definitely some really useful things you can do here. You could pair this with that supercharged melt-up gun for strength 13, an extra AP. This is going to be a very powerful one, especially when you have a way to ignore cover through marker lights, whatever it may be. This would be very, very powerful, no doubt. Even just for regular units that need to snipe out some units, and getting that extra strength could give them an extra +1 to wound. Of course, getting hazardous is no good, as you'd risk blowing up your units, but that's the price you pay for such a powerful ability. In terms of the next one, we have 1 command point for threat. Oh, also, you cannot target the same unit with experimental ammunition and threat assessment and analyzer in the same phase. Same restriction applies here. So this is for threat assessment, analyzer. 1 Tau Empire unit that's not been shot. Select sustained hits 1 or lethal hits. To the end phase, ranged weapons equipped by models in your unit have the selected ability. You can instead select the sustained hits 1 and lethal hits and hazardous abilities to those weapons. To the end of the phase, super, super good. This kind of stratagem is always super useful to have on hand, just to flex your damage in whichever way you need. This can allow just about any weapon to become general purpose enough to at least chip some wounds off of things. So these are both super powerful stratagems, and you'll want to be making use of them very consistently. Hold on. Where were we? We were covering... yes, the stratagems. Nero Web System Jammer is the next one for 1 command point in your opponent's shooting phase just after an enemy has selected its targets. 1 Empire Crisis unit from your army that was selected as target of one or more of those attacks. Into the end phase, your unit can only be selected as the target of a ranged attack if the attacking model is within 18 inches. This is really, really powerful. Unsurprisingly, Crisis suits just do a lot of damage, so keeping them safe if they're not in deep strike is very useful. Yeah, I mean, there's not much more to say. That's one you'll be wanting to use. Pretty much all of these stratagems are very, very powerful. Yeah, this is definitely a super strong detachment. I think it's obscene, even. You could call it obscene. Very powerful. Very, very powerful. No doubt in my mind. Let's hop over to the Munitorum Field Manual and go double-check the other things, the points. That's right. For, first up, Custodes, which are on page 3. We can just scroll down to that. Titanicus, Eldari, wait, hold on. Adeptus Custodes. So, Lines of the Emperor. 10 points for Admonum Mortis. That's, Admonum Mortis is... I can't remember. Oh, yes. This is the extra strength AP. For 10 points, a steal. Fierce Conqueror. 15 points, I think, is fine. Perhaps not the most take-all-comers enhancement. Praesidius for 25 points. Super good. And Superior Creation for 25 points is probably a bit more questionable, in my opinion. Overall, still a solid detachment, though. Tau, though, 34, page 34. Let's hope these enhancements are expensive. So, attachments. Experimental Prototype. Fusion Blade for 25 points. Yeah, it's expensive, but worth it. Plasma Accelerator Rifle seems like a steal at 10 points. Supernova Launcher is probably fine at 15. And then the Thermo Neutronic, which is for the Flamers, is definitely interesting that it's 20 points. Still a good enhancement, probably just the one I'd take the least, unless I was going for pure just anti-horde firepower. Again, this enhancement looks insane, and I hope I never face it, because Tau are powerful enough as they are. I don't need them being able to hit me from further away. Anyways, this is very fun, in my opinion. I like that factions are just going to be getting detachments every 3 months. Yeah, it's really, really cool. Anyways, looks like Chaos Demons also got a new index. I'm not going to cover that in this video because I couldn't care less about demons, really. But that's good to know that they're staying in index. And I will see you all next time. Bye-bye.